All right, well, welcome Charlotte from Advent Coworking. We're so happy that you could join us here on our Innovate Charlotte VMS mentee meetings. Yeah, I couldn't get the whole thing out. But we're so awesome. We're so happy that you are on here to join us to talk a little bit about Advent and about coworking in general. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so for anybody who is not familiar with coworking, can you just explain the basic premise? What is coworking?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you probably know, starting a business, there's a lot that goes into it. And one thing you might need is a physical space. That can be very expensive. You have to pay for the office, you have to do utilities, you have to get internet, you have to buy all your office supplies. So the idea of co-working is that you can actually buy into a shared space. It keeps your overhead costs much lower. And then the real benefit, though, is the community that you can be a part of. Because it's not just you alone doing your own thing as an entrepreneur. That can be really lonely. You now have this whole group of people who are kind of in the same boat. They're running their own businesses and they're doing very different things. So if you need help with marketing, if you need help with your website, if you need help with, logistics, there are people around that can assist you, and you have that opportunity to build those natural connections. And that's really what we focus on at Advent, is just providing as many opportunities as we can for people to get to know each other.
Now, co-working, I mean, there's lots of co-working spaces. We're hearing more about co-working as you have larger national players and all that come into town. How has co-working changed over the years, or at least in the years that you've been involved? How has you seen co-working change?
Ooh, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously COVID has changed how we do a lot of things. And as you know, with being an entrepreneur, the hurdles that you bump into, those are often the things that allow you to be the most creative. So coming up on this COVID thing, it gave us an opportunity to expand a lot of things that we hadn't done before. For example, doing virtual events or offering virtual memberships. These are sort of new things that we hadn't really explored. And so I think that aspect of it has really skyrocketed. And we've found ways, I think, to combine the in-person connections that you really need with having access to people all over the place and being able to connect with people virtually. So I've seen that as a huge shift in co-working.
So you mentioned, the aspect of community at co-working, which that is one of the unique things about co-working. It's not just people all working in the same, building. Regis has been doing that for years, but co-working really is this kind of like micro ecosystem. And I know I've certainly seen deals get made, partnerships. You find a client just based on a conversation that you have with somebody there. What have you seen in terms of like the coming together of different ideas and different creative minds? What have you seen as at Advent?
Oh wow! I mean, there's so many stories. So we just had our book club meeting yesterday, and I was talking to Josie, one of our new members, who's a life coach. And she was telling her story of how she got into it. And she said, I actually came to an event at Advent where Lisa Spear, one of our wonderful members from Spear Creative Edge, was speaking. And she talked about, what do people naturally come to you for? That is what you need to be doing in your business. And that's how she realized she wanted to be a life coach. And that was she just happened to attend that event, and it completely changed the trajectory of her career. I know I onboarded another new member, and he kind of jokingly said, I bet I'm the only geologist here. And I said, actually, no, we have an office full of geologists that have been working out of here. And he was so excited because he, especially in Charlotte, very rarely meets people in his field. And so just those natural connections that happen. I mean, we've had people get married who met at Advent. So that's honestly my favorite part of the job, is just being able to witness that and facilitate it, and just being able to see people's journeys from coming in with an idea of they're just starting their business, to hiring their first employee, to growing their team, to maybe getting another location. It's just so cool to see that evolution.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it really is like a little incubator. I mean, I know it's not officially an incubator, but co-working spaces tend to be little incubators of ideas and relationships and creativity.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Advent specifically, what's unique about Advent in the co-working world?
Well, Advent, like I said, we really focus on community. So we do a lot. We actually have, my colleague Sam wasn't able to join us because we had a walk-in tour right before this call started, but they're our member experience manager. And so their entire role is focused on making members happy, making members feel special, doing things that members actually want, making sure we're, touching base with them, surveying them to figure out what they really need. And so I think that's, um, something that is sort of an afterthought in some co-working spaces, but for Advent, it's just in our DNA of what we really want to do.
Awesome. And in terms of maybe amenities and all of that, what do people, who go to Advent, what do you guys have there?
Yeah, so we're about 28,000 square feet now. So we started with just a smaller space, and then we've grown within our own building several times. We have large areas for flex membership. So this is if you just want, a month-to-month membership option. You can come in and work anywhere. So we've got tables, stand-up bars, cozy couch areas. We have a library with lounges where you can take a nap. We also have meeting rooms that you can utilize. So there are, several small conference rooms with televisions and whiteboards for when you need to meet with clients. We have a larger event space. So when it's cool for people to meet in person again, we've had really amazing events in there, including Tech Talks, which Igor has helped to run on issues related to technology with RMC Soft and Kepler team. And so that flex membership is actually $149 a month, just so you have an idea of what that might be. We also have a dedicated desk option. So we do have folks who, they don't want to lug their stuff in and out every day. They want to have their own setup. Some people need multiple monitors for the work that they're trying to do. So that one is $249 a month. And it also gets you Ethernet access. You still get, in all of those memberships, you get 5 hours a month to book out any of the meeting rooms. We have office spaces that can be rented starting at around like $450 a month. And they go up all the way to suite spaces. So that's if you want a more permanent situation, if you have several team members, if you want to be able to decorate, that's honestly my favorite part of the offices, is seeing how people put together their spaces. We have a podcast studio. So a lot of people, they use that as an element to promote their business. And then some people do it just as kind of a side hustle, as a fun thing that they like to do. We have like all the up-to-date equipment with really high quality sound coming out of there. And those memberships start at just $70 a month. We also have a yoga studio. And just this week, we brought back our free Advent member yoga classes. So that was really, really fun to do. It was mask on, but there's that yoga and exercise studio space for you. We have fiber internet, so it's 1,000 up and down. I know a lot of folks, for your work, and especially now doing all these video calls, you need really high quality internet, and that's just a lot to purchase at your home. So to be able to go to a co-working space where you have that speed is a wonderful thing. Got phone booths you can pop into if you need to make a quick phone or Zoom call. We've got free coffee from our lovely friends at Paper Plane Deli and Market. As Advent members, you can get free coffee, tea, or a piece of fruit every day there. We have I feel like I'm going on a rant because there's so many cool things to talk about. We've got like a bike sharing program. I mentioned our library space. There's just so many things you can do there.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And there is a lot of those little extra features that you might not even think about there. So you talked about live events, and before you popped in, we were just having a conversation here about, when are things going back to live events and all of that. What are you seeing from a co-working perspective and having event space and hosting your own events? What are you seeing in terms of timing? Are we getting closer? What does that look like?
Yeah, I'm seeing people itching to be in person because we've been in this for a year now, and it can be really hard to just make connections over Zoom. So we've been starting to get more requests from people to do things in person, and we're being pretty cautious with it because, of course, we want to consider everybody's safety. So for example, now with the weather outside, it's been so much nicer, and we've been able to use our patio for some outdoor meetings where people can be very spread out, just so people can have that in-person connection again. And we've started doing a little bit of the mixed event where you can come in person and be outside, but then we can also bring in people virtually. We actually have a member directory that we have everybody's photo on the wall when you walk in. So the first thing you see is all the beautiful faces of people who work there, but it's also digitized online and everything in there is searchable. So you can look for like somebody's name. You can look for a business name, you can look for a business type, and whoever is there, that'll pop up in the directory and you can actually direct message them right there. Sorry, I saw that question come in, so I just transitioned very quickly.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, Dominique had asked about the directory, so that's something that's good to know. And I think we answered Lana's. Well, cool. Yeah, I want to open that up. Then, does anybody else have any other questions for Charlotte about Advent, about co-working in general, or anything like that?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So based on what you heard so far, do y'all foresee yourselves wanting to work out of a co-working space?
I know Xavier, Chef Maria, because they work out of kitchens.
Yeah.
Until you add a kitchen to that, I don't know, Chef Maria, would there be a benefit in having a separate office space that you can go to that's out of the kitchen?
Oh yeah, I definitely would like that. It just becomes a logistical, issue where I'm at, if I'm, in Nashville for the day or whether I'm at the kitchen in Charlotte, and just, the timing of it all. Since I schedule my kitchen time, usually I pick kind of offbeat hours to make sure that, I get the space to myself. So, that could be a little tricky, because usually when I'm done in the kitchen, I'm just ready to go home. I don't want to go to an office space after that, and sit and work. I'll just, tough it out and do that from home. So that's a hard question to answer right now.
In terms of the types of entrepreneurs that you see there, what are you getting most of at Advent? Like what kind of entrepreneurs, or what kind of people, because they don't have to be entrepreneurs. What kind of people do you typically have there?
Yeah. What I like about Advent is that it really is a full spectrum of different types of businesses. So you're a chef. We actually have a catering company that works out of Advent. So they use that as their office space. I think when people think of co-working traditionally, they think of a lot of tech startups. And we do have those businesses and they're wonderful. But what I like is that we've sort of expanded co-working to apply to a lot of different people. We've got parents who, choose Advent because it's close to their kids' daycare. And, we've got people who are remote workers for larger companies. And those aren't people who traditionally would use a co-working space, but they want that community aspect. So they come in. So we've got people in all different fields. I recognize this guy. Hi, Chris. Who can, tell you about Whistle Cleaning Company, which is fantastic. We actually use them for our disinfectant fogging that we do once a week to keep the space nice and clean. So we've got cleaning companies, and a lot of the majority of people tend to be small business owners and entrepreneurs, but it's in all different types of companies.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, no, that's it's great, and yeah, I've definitely come to appreciate the community and incubation aspect of co-working, more so than before, where it's just like, all right, you go work at a coffee shop, you go to a co-working space. Yeah, it's nice because it's, they're not going to stare you down if you're there for a couple hours. But it's actually so much more than that. And that's what's really cool.
And we really try to make Advent reflect what the real Charlotte business community looks like, which is everybody.
Right.
I can share a little bit of my experience with Advent, because that's been the place that I came to when I just moved to Charlotte from Belarus. I didn't know anyone, and it was a hard sell to persuade my wife that without a job or anything, I would pay $150 just to go and work out of a co-working space. But that was the best investment ever, because that's where I met my former business partner. I met Juan, who was guiding me on how to build my negotiation workshops. I partnered with a number of people, worked for Kevin and with Kevin on some projects. So it's been life-changing for me. The experience of Advent co-working and seeing Charlotte community and getting exposed to Charlotte community. So I very much appreciate, guys, the work that you're doing. And even if you are like not ready like for full membership, I feel this is something that every entrepreneur could experience, just attending events, trying the podcasting, engaging with serendipitous conversations that you have not scheduled. That's the worst thing, or the thing that I miss the most that I got at Advent when you run into people. Yeah. So now Innovate Charlotte is at Advent. So some of you who have not had meetings, this is where we used to have all the meetings. We have an office space. The other organization, my other client that I worked with for almost as long as with Innovate Charlotte, has expanded to 2 offices. So it's, I don't know, it's my second home, I almost feel right now.
Yeah. Igor, so I think Igor was one of the first people I met when I actually started at Advent. So he's been there longer than me and can tell you a lot about the history and how much it's grown. But even if you're not ready for a co-working space, we have events now we have a lot of events that are virtual. You can check out our events calendar on our website, or you can sign up online to get on our newsletter list. So you can stay up to date with all these different events that are going on in Charlotte. And then we also provide virtual business addresses. So if you don't have a business address for your organization yet, and you want to have that Google My Business page, that's a huge thing in getting your business set up. We offer that where we can, send you pictures of your mail every time you receive it. Come pick it up whenever it's convenient for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I forgot about that. You guys have that. Yeah. Isaiah, did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question on, as far as, so I'm a mobile caterer as well, just like Maria, and I don't necessarily need an office space, but as far as you mentioned some services as far as like doing the podcast and things like that, do you guys offer those services for individuals, even though they're like, I might not be using your facility, but like, are those services something that are still offered to individuals they're interested in that you could, pay for, as far as like the podcast I'm thinking about, just as far as promotion and what I'm trying to do? I'm just wondering if that's something that's offered, or do you have to kind of be in a contract with one of the facilities to kind of use that service as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the podcast studio is a feature that all members have access to. It's included in those 5 complimentary hours per month you get. However, we do have membership options that are just for recording in the studio. So if you don't need a co-working space, you don't need an office, you just want to use that studio, we have an option for you. We try to be as flexible as possible with what people's needs are. So if you want to go to YouTube and type in Advent Co-working videos, that's our YouTube channel. We actually have tutorial videos. So if you're new to podcasting, or you just want to get a little bit familiar with our studio and our equipment, that is a great thing to check out. And if you sign up, we can do an onboarding with you, and we can actually schedule a one-on-one orientation with a producer from the Queen City Podcast Network to help you acclimate yourself to the studio. If you're not familiar with Queen City Podcast Network, they actually have a space at Advent. And there's over 20, Charlotte podcasts that are recorded out there. So definitely check that out. The Advent Co-working Podcast is produced by Queen City Podcast Network. And there's a ton of other amazing shows on there too.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I think that's also good for a lot of entrepreneurs to know. We're talking about all of the benefits of being a part of that incubation environment. Even if you don't need an office, you can still attend events. You can still use the podcast studio. You could still use a lot of the resources that are there. Whether it's a la carte or on a flex membership or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. We try to meet people where they're at and provide whatever options we can for where you are in your business and what your needs are.
I had one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
So you mentioned like you can provide the business address, and that's kind of what businesses will use. Do you guys allow pickup, or like for pickups at your location, or is that not allowed just because it's kind of shared space?
For picking up your mail?
I'm just thinking more so like if this is a space for office, but I have individuals who might come and need to pick up deliveries, is that something that you guys are able to do? Or like I said, because it's a shared space, that's limited where you won't really want customers coming to the location?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't know if I've ever gotten that one before.
Oh, well, good.
No, it's good. I like when we get new ideas. It's not something that we offer at this time. Usually you would, whoever is meeting with you, you would just give them your contact info and they would contact you when they arrive at the space. So the reason we haven't really done any sort of like receptionist services is because we bounce around a lot. We have a lot of different meetings and we do tours and we're not always consistently at the door for when that person might come. But like I said, we're always trying to figure out new ways that we can be of service to people. So I think that's a really good idea for something that we could look into in the future.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like if anybody has any ideas on what other services Advent can provide, they'll certainly consider.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
I was just going to say our email is info@adventcoworking.com and our phone number is 980-299-8331. So any other questions or suggestions that you have, feel free to reach out to us. My name is Charlotte. Sam is our member experience manager and Kevin is our founder. So you can reach out to
One more question. Sorry. Charlotte, what's your last name?
It's Laun. It's spelled Laun and it's pronounced like clown.
Okay, Charlotte. Okay, I'm just gonna find you on LinkedIn. I just wanted to make sure I found you.
And we can add your email. We can add your email to the chat here if anybody's got any questions for them. And actually, my next question was going to be, how can people find out more about Advent Coworking? And you just shared that. So unless anybody else has any questions, I think that's all we've got for you, Charlotte.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. It was nice
Yeah.
to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. And hopefully you'll see us when we get back to live events, back at Advent.
Thanks, Juan. Thanks, Igor.
Good to see you, Charlotte.